as ecom matures, I think A/B testing product images are going to be the next thing. When we have to shoot them in the physical world, it's too expensive to shoot it multiple times. When we can take an AI generated image, now we can set up showing the product in 2, 3, 4 ways, randomly testing them to decide which one has a significantly higher conversion rate. And that ability to optimize images across your product catalog, that's something that we haven't been able to do. And I think AI will finally be the technology that lets us try that.
Welcome to LaunchPod, the show from LogRocket where we sit down with top product and digital leaders. How many engineers does it take to run the e-commerce site for a retail company that does over $1 billion in revenue per year? Well, if you're Rainbow Shops, the answer is just 2. Most e-commerce teams assume scale requires more engineers, more tools, more complexity. Chief Digital Officer David Cost has built something many people in e-commerce would say isn't possible: a lean, fast-moving digital operation that runs on vendor partnerships instead of a massive internal team. 2 engineers, hundreds of programmers worth of output, and none of the overhead that comes with scaling the traditional way. In this episode, David shares a detailed under-the-hood look at the specific vendors they use to stay so lean, his playbook for using strategic partnerships with vendors as an external dev team, how being a testbed for new tech gives them a competitive edge, and why their choice of e-commerce platform was vital in enabling Rainbow's digital strategy. So here's our episode with David Cost. David, what's up, man? Good to have you on the show today.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for having me.
I'm stoked to see you again. It was fun last time we talked, and now we get to actually do it with a camera looking at us. So
yes, we do.
That's going to be a blast. I want to dive into, you guys are running the most ridiculous setup of an e-commerce shop I have seen in a really positive way in years of doing this. Rainbow Shops, it's a huge retail operation. You guys are running the entire ecom op with like you and 2 engineers from what I gathered from talking to you. I want to dive into it, but first, before we kind of go deeper, maybe just like the 90-second background, like how do you get up into running something like this? Because like the skill set you have to do some of the things you've done astounds me, I think, just because of the way you've run this.
I mean, so look, kind of career-wise, I spent the first third of my career doing consulting, kind of a mix of management and technology consulting. I spent the middle third, I was a co-founder of a price comparison site in the very early days of the internet, so kind of the late 90s, before Google existed. I did that for about 15 years, and then I kind of spent this last third taking, in that price comparison space, we saw the birth of e-commerce online and kind of took all those lessons that I learned from watching all of those e-com startups go from nothing to fairly substantial and said, okay, let me go take that skill set and go try it now on the retail side. And that's what I've been doing for kind of the last third.
And so you wound up at Rainbow Shops. You guys are running a sizable e-commerce operation over there. Just if you're in e-commerce at some level, you're competing with the big, Amazon, Walmarts of the world. They kind of went the route of just hire every engineer physically possible, do a ton. You guys kind of went the other way. Maybe we can just explain like the high level here, because I think you said last time we talked, you had 2 engineers for the entire thing, but I just don't understand how that's possible.
So we operate, I don't know now, about 850 brick and mortar stores, as well as the online presence. We sell kind of affordable, trendy, fast fashion for women in both junior and plus sizes. We also have kids merchandise from infants all the way up through high school. So that's kind of what Rainbow is and what Rainbow does. I describe Rainbow as it feels like a TJ Maxx kind of format with clothing that in the old days you would have seen in a Forever 21 or maybe something like, today that you would see in a Shein. So that's kind of the setup. You're right. When we ask our customer post-purchase, where does she shop for clothing, shoes, and accessories other than Rainbow? Same 3 answers we've gotten for the last 2 or 3 years we've asked this question are Amazon, Walmart, and Shein. Huge companies that we compete against. And we actually do that with 2 full-time engineers. They are very, very good and very talented.
Apparently.
We use our 2 full-time internal engineers, and then we partner with a lot of technology vendors who, in some ways, they're almost extensions of our staff. Yeah. So we're a big enough retailer. When somebody builds something new, they need a place to test it. We are often willing to let them test it at Rainbow. And so in exchange for giving them the ability to test with us, we have influence over kind of, what they develop and how they build that. And so that becomes a way for us to supplement the stack. We were on Demandware or Salesforce Commerce Cloud for, I guess, the first, 10, 11 years I was at Rainbow. We replatformed to Shopify a couple of years ago. And why that platform decision is so important to us is We rely on the broader ecosystem to supplement what we build internally. So when we were originally on Demandware was the king of the hill. That was the platform that everybody built for first. And so everything new that came out would come out on Demandware before it came out on Magento or another platform. I mean, we really saw kind of the marketplace shift to Shopify. And so we made the replatforming decision to move to Shopify. I think we moved in 21, but look, I mean, we think today that Shopify is far and away the premier e-commerce platform. With their scale, if you're going to develop a new piece of tech that's going to work in the e-com world, you're going to build it for Shopify first.
You guys are building your kind of core, your architecture there on the thing that if you need to partner or when you need to partner with other providers to stay ahead and just move quickly, it's going to be the thing. You're basing your whole stack on the thing that they're all going to be building on first. So you're going to just natively have access to kind of the cutting edge stuff.
That's correct. And generally what happens is they need a big retailer to be able to demo or to have them use that technology, right, to prove to other big retailers that it works. Shopify has a lot of small retailers. They don't have as many large ones. So we've kind of built a niche where we're willing to let people come try as long as they help or let us help influence that tech roadmap and influence what they develop and build.
If you're willing, can we talk through a few of them? And what does this actually look like in practice? Can you give us an example of where this has worked really well for you guys?
Yeah. So we work with this company called Layers. And here's what Layers built for us. So in the Demandware Salesforce days, let me take a step back. The order that you display products on a collection or category page is very important. Somebody hits your website, they go to your dress page. You need to show them something interesting in the first 2 or 3 rows, or they're going to get bored and bounce, right? We may have 400 dresses, but the order we put them on the page matters. Shopify out of the box has very basic sort orders that you can use to put things on the page. Not very sophisticated at all. In the Demandware world or the Salesforce world, we had very sophisticated tools that let us build very custom sort orders to put things on the page. We didn't have that when we went on to Shopify. We missed it. So we worked with this company called Layers to essentially help us build that same functionality. And now and again, in our case, we use this formula that takes the last 7 days worth of dollar sales for every item on the website and then ranks or sorts products based on that dollar selling. So we're using the wisdom of the crowd to constantly change the sort order on the page.
Interesting. And I have to assume if you were to build this in-house, it's probably not the most complex thing to do, but then you have to maintain it. You have to, anytime maybe Shopify changes.
With 2 people, there's no way we would have built that in-house.
Yeah.
This technology competes against an Algolia or a SearchSpring.
Right. It's more complex than it sounds like to maybe someone who's not as technical.
These companies need real infrastructure to be able to play this game. Wasn't something we were going to be able to do ourselves, but working with Layers, they built us a hell of a tool that gives us the same capabilities we had on Salesforce at a Shopify price.
And no, but here you are now talking about it publicly. This is just a naive question on my end, but how long would that have taken to build internally? Or it's just out of the scope of what you guys are looking to do?
With an organization of our size and scale, we got a big brick and mortar footprint, but that doesn't mean we've got a big technology development footprint. It honestly would not have been something we would have built internally.
Yeah. Obviously the brick and mortar side is pretty gigantic. You said a number when we talked last time, estimated number, and it was your digital size is not small here, man, but you're doing it with 2 people. So the economies of scale you're getting here are ridiculous. Engineer time is not cheap.
They're both super talented and super productive people. In the world of AI has made them even more efficient as they rely on, things like Claude to code more and more things that they want to get done. It's increased their productivity. Right. Yeah. We're getting even more out of the 2 of them than we were before.
This is everyone's dream, right? Or every founder's dream is, can I make this large digital footprint and, large digital company with just the minuscule number of 100x engineers. And everyone thinks it's just going to be a collection of agents or something. I do think you need the talent behind that to build it. But you guys were doing this kind of before it was, cool. Instead of AIing a bunch of code, you just kind of worked with vendors for it. But this whole AI kind of coding thing has brought up the whole conversation of, is it the death of software? Because who's going to buy B2B tools when you can just build it so easily. I think that's BS, by the way. I don't think that's going to
I
be
do
true.
too. I think these things, look, everything looks easy until you actually
Right.
start to code
But you
it.
guys were already a great example of this is like focus on the thing you do and let other people focus on the things that they're going to be great at. And like together it's going to be fantastic, right?
At Rainbow, I've run or been responsible for running a bunch of different AI experiments. I kind of put those experiments in two buckets. There's the bucket where the goal was to essentially replace people with the AI, right? So build a robot that could do what the human could do, right? With the goal of reducing headcount, if that worked. The second bucket is where the AI gives us some augmented or some superhuman capability, right? But it still is dependent upon a person driving it. Every experiment where we've tried to replace people has failed. And every experiment where we've gone the augmentation route has been an enormous success. In my lifetime, I've watched a couple huge technology waves, right? So I came out of college at the time, the first personal computers were coming onto the market. So the personal computing wave was an enormous game changer. We then get the internet, and shortly after the internet, we get the whole mobile phone. I mean, I think mobile phones have been the big technological equalizer where personal computing was expensive and was more concentrated in educated or elites. Mobile phones made computing ubiquitous. So everybody has now a computer in their pocket. I think AI is the next wave and may be the biggest wave that I've experienced in my lifetime of those three or four. Again, I was around when spreadsheets first came out, and we didn't lose accountants or financial analysts or have fewer of them. Okay, we have more of them today than we did then. It became a tool that in the right person's hands could enable them to do, amazing things. But it is a tool at the end of the day. In our AI experiments, AI is a tool. It requires human ingenuity, creativity, whatever, to get the most out of the tool. And I'll tell you kind of a quick story on this. We're working with a generative AI image startup called Lica, Lica. I mean, it's amazing what the people at Lica have been able to do. We're using them for product photography. We're also using them for editorial or, things that you would see on a homepage or in an email. So when they were showing us the editorial tool, they had their own internal people produce some images to show us as examples that they were really proud of. They turned it over to our creative director, who started playing with it. And when they saw what she was able to get the tool to do, even they, as the creator of the tool, were blown away. So in a super creative human's hands, they were able to get so much more out of the thing that they built than they were able to do themselves. Again, to me, this is yet kind of another example in this new world of AI. A human needs to learn how to use it and needs to embrace it. And I think people that do that earlier will have a much easier career path than people that don't. But this is not a piece of technology that's going to eliminate jobs. It's really not. It's going to change roles, and people that adopt it earlier will do better. And look, I mean, as good as the AI is, it can't end-to-end finish something on its own. It helps you get something done. It can take a lot of the busy work out, but it doesn't build the connections on the front and the back end. There are many things it can't quite finish on its own. And it still requires somebody to tell it what it is they want to build.
Right. So back to Leica. So basically this, speaking of like how you guys are able to operate on such a slim kind of group of folks. So it's making all the product shots for you. You have to have a source original shot of the product, or like what does this look like? Like how are you guys implementing this kind of into workflow there, and what's it speeding up for you?
Another cautionary tale from the frontier of
Because
AI.
this is something could go wrong really easily.
So it's interesting. In some ways, the technology got a little ahead of our ability to restructure the workflow to incorporate it. Basically, what happens today, we receive clothing into the warehouse. We pull a sample. That sample goes to the studio where it's, images need to be prepared, comes out to an ecom operations group that writes a product title, description, functional attributes about the item, and makes sure how it's going to appear on the website, right? And then something goes live. But even within that photo studio, it matters, does it get shot on a model or not? Is it lingerie or swimwear that gets shot differently than if it's regular clothing? Is it a shoe, a bag, an accessory, jewelry? Those things get shot differently. There's all these processes, and that's just getting it shot. That's not when it's done, how it gets retouched, before those images get approved to go live. Well, now you start to interject AI in it, and you kind of asked what the input was. We've done two different kinds of inputs. We've taken very basic just throw the article of clothing on any person to just see how it hangs on a body. We then give that to the AI and it puts it on a model. We're also now experimenting with just throwing it down on a tabletop. So we're literally taking it, out of the bag that it comes in, putting it on a tabletop, taking a picture, from on top down, and then feeding the AI those, kind of a front and back of that tabletop image. And it is then doing kind of the composing to get that actually on a human.
That's a lot of time of like styling it, setting it up.
The human styling game has not gone away, right?
Right.
So we still have to tell the AI, we want this top, this bottom, this jacket, this pair of shoes, this bag, this belt. We need to tell it which things we want it to use to make the image. It's not making those decisions on its own.
Right. Yeah. So it's not, again, not taking away, the human work there. It's just, it's the taste that you can do things faster. You still have to have the right idea of what to
And now, we're not going to be sending, images, to an offshore place to be retouched. We won't have to retouch images anymore.
Yeah. The image generation stuff has gotten wild.
The pace that this progresses is unlike anything I've seen before. In this case, when we came back with some of those editorial images, Lica asked if it was something we shot in the studio. As the creator of the tool, they couldn't tell whether we shot it for real or whether it was AI generated. That's the phase we're moving into now, where if people are really honest and we give them two images, they're going to have a hard time trying to figure out which is which. And I think that's in some ways it's really impressive. In other ways, maybe it's a slippery slope. But
I think the last frontier here still is all the AI video stuff. We saw pictures were 6 fingers of people, 7-finger people, until all of a sudden it wasn't. So it'd be interesting how that applies to ecom, right? Because you can start to have, the model, walking or showing it in real life use, not just the still shot.
I'll give you my future prediction here. As ecom matures, everybody kind of knows all the conversion rate techniques, right? We've done them all. We're all looking for what's the next thing or what's new. I think A/B testing product images are going to be the next thing. When we have to shoot them in the physical world, it's too expensive to shoot it multiple times. When we can take an AI generated image, now we can set up showing the product in 2, 3, 4 ways, randomly testing them on the PDP to decide which one has a significantly higher conversion rate. And that ability to optimize images across your product catalog, that's something that we haven't been able to do. And I think AI will finally be the technology that lets us try that.
To build on what you're talking about there, the nice thing about in person is you can try things on. I can try, like, do these pants go with this shirt? Does this jacket work? You can't shoot every combination of clothes. Like you said, you have thousands of SKUs on the store.
At our peak in the year, we'll have 75,000 SKUs live.
Yeah, so that's a lot of thousands. Like, you can't do every combo there. But something like this, if you can start to render things in combination, you can, sell outfits.
There's an ecom retailer called Adore Me in the lingerie space. They understood the power of product images early on, and they built proprietary technology to be able to take. So every piece of lingerie they shot on 2 different models in 2 different locations. And then they would A/B test every image, and they found that one image oftentimes significantly outperformed another. They had expensive enough product, limited enough SKU set to be able to fund doing double images for everything. You can clearly see this technique will work. I think AI will enable it. So I'm kind of excited in the next couple years where that goes. Because I think once that starts, it will roll through the business just like every other good conversion rate optimization idea does.
One of the things for something like LogRocket that we have seen is you can start to see how people are moving on your page. Because we do, we started session replay, but it's also with the AI agent of watching your users. We can basically watch every session for you and tell you qualitatively about it. You start to get into, like, this picture's different. How do people interact with the page based on that versus, like, are they hovering? Are they looking? Are they popping through more carousels? There's a lot you can start to do with that kind of thing and feed that code or feed those suggestions all back in to some kind of tooling you have to ingest that. And you can just start to rapidly really iterate on all that.
For years, we've talked about personalization in the e-commerce space. I would argue none of us have done personalization. At best, we've done very crude segmentation. That's not personalization. AI with some of these agents where on your website, you'll be able to essentially assign an agent, like a personal sales agent, to each person who comes. And as they truly learn that person's preferences, they'll be able to advise, suggest whatever. If this A/B image testing thing works, you could even see that there would be differences from one person to another, and that those kinds of agents would be able to pick up on that. Another technology vendor we work with is a company called Attentive. We do email and SMS with Attentive. And Attentive has applied AI to do truly, in my definition, personalized messaging. So rather than send a generic message that goes out to everybody, the AI is writing individual messages based on when the person last came to your website, what items did they look at, what did they add to cart, what did they abandon? It's using all of that data, all of those inputs. So on a welcome series where, we're giving a coupon when you sign up, or you've left something in your cart rather than send some kind of generic cart abandonment, being able to send truly personalized messages like a person wrote it is a game changer. When we first started working with them on these, and our ownership got one of the messages because they're constantly kind of playing with the website, they came back and asked who wrote the message because they thought it was a person who wrote the message.
That's hilarious.
Right.
Yeah.
So like there again, this is cutting edge stuff using AI to do true personalization. We would never have been able to build that on our own. We needed someone like an Attentive to do it. Attentive needs a big retailer to be able to test it out with. So, hopefully we keep building these scenarios where, both the vendor and us win, which those are always the best partnerships.
So folks, you hear that? If you can do super personalized photo generation, let them know. We could go on talking about AI forever. I'll be honest, it's the topic conversation so often when I talk to product people.
Yeah.
But another thing I want to kind of cover is, sorry to keep down the rabbit hole, but what you have done over there and what you and the team have accomplished with like so few people. I keep using the word astounds me, but I can't think of a better word. Can we talk about, you guys have a mobile app. You have a native mobile app.
We do.
Typically you would need, a couple of engineers just for that. And you don't, again, because you have two. So can we talk about, you guys use a company called Fuego, and this really, impressed me. I thought this was a really cool story.
The people at Fuego have built something that ingests what we've set up in Shopify and creates a native version for both iOS and Android. It has some capabilities that the website doesn't have. So it does take advantage of the things that you can do with an app that you can't do with a browser-based thing. But essentially, the lift on our side is installing an app in Shopify and setting a couple customizations. That's it. So we pick up native apps along with push notifications. And in a world where we've already hit peak email, and I think we've probably hit peak SMS, push is kind of the next frontier. No one gets in the middle of push. So on the SMS side, we got to worry about AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile. On the email side, we got to worry about what Google or what AOL or Yahoo. So, push notifications can be really powerful, right? The person who downloads your app tends to be more committed to the brand than somebody who doesn't. And so being able to offer native apps at a really low price and a really low, not only technical lift to get it implemented the first time, but to maintain it going forward, I think it's a game changer. I'm always amazed at how few retailers have embraced apps. I've had apps at Rainbow most of the time I've been there, and I had it at the retailer that I was at prior. My experience has been people in the world break into app people versus browser people, right? And you can't move people from one camp to another. Some people prefer to click that icon on a phone, and it doesn't need to have any additional functionality, but they're just more comfortable with an app than they are going to a web browser every time, and vice versa. And again, in our case, that's about 20% of the people use the app. So that's a pretty big group. If 1 in 5 people prefer to access Rainbow product via an app than web, we really should personalize to them. And they convert at a higher rate. They repeat purchase at a higher rate. Their average basket size is larger. Again, our ability to message them via push is invaluable. Lots and lots of benefits of having native apps. And again, by picking the right ecom platform and the right partner in Fuego, lets us have something that, you're right, I could have had 2 people for iOS and 2 people for Android.
Right. We work with a lot of e-commerce vendors, and the mobile app is one of the things that just, even the ones who have them, it's a giant lift, and it's the thing that continues to cause problems day in and day out, because like you said, it's 2 different platforms just on face, right? You have to have Android and you have to have iOS. but it's also just everyone's phone is a little bit different, connectivity issues. There's just an infinite kind of list of variables that go into it. What I love here, I think, is at heart, you have 2 engineers, but you also kind of have at some level like 200.
That's honestly, that is
So you're
how
only
I
paying
think
for 2 of
about it.
them.
Yeah. I think in the world, you have vendors and you have partners.
Yeah.
We've been lucky to overweight on the partner side and have fewer vendors. And those partnerships have been, part of the secret sauce that makes Rainbow what it is and lets us operate at the level of efficiency that we operate at. One of the big reasons we went to Shopify is because we thought their checkout, only person that has a checkout better than Shopify is Amazon, and Amazon's checkout isn't for sale.
So you can't use that one.
So, Shopify was a very close second. And I think what they've been able to do with Shop Pay, I think in the internet world, we have problems that massive scale help you win at versus just having good technology. A digital wallet like Shop Pay is, you need to have massive scale. And there is no other ecom platform in the United States, at least. I don't know enough about the rest of the world, but there is nothing in the US that comes even close to the scale that Shopify has. That's why they're the only game in town for Shop Pay. Look at how hard digital wallet adoption is. So I can tell you on the Rainbow website, Shop Pay is up to almost half our transactions. So that's 1 and 2 people are using Shop Pay to check out. The next one down from that is we might have an Afterpay or a Klarna at like 8-9%. A PayPal used to be 20 and now it's 10. Even look at Apple Pay. Okay, with all of the power of Apple and owning the hardware, Apple Pay is sub 10%. So what Shopify has been able to pull off at a 50, again, I think is miraculous. And there is no challenger to that, right? Because nobody else has 3 million merchants that they work with that they can, automatically or push hard to run their payments through that. If you understand how this works, anybody who's checked out with any merchant that offers Shop Pay, if you go to any other merchant that offers it, it's literally, it recognizes you by email or phone number. It sends you a 6-digit code and you're done. Like this is as close to Amazon as you can get.
And you spend no engineering time on it.
That's correct.
And it reminds me of checkout here. We're like, just what are you doing? Like you can spend all the engineering time you want on it, and you will if you make your own. It's gonna be a constant problem. You're gonna have engineers on it all the time. You need a bunch of them. It's gonna cause debt. And it's not going to be as good.
I think a lot of people in our industry, one of their negatives for Shopify was that you couldn't customize checkout enough. Look, over my, 15 or 20 years in e-commerce, checkout is not the place that you want to be an innovator. It's no different than in a brick and mortar store. When you decide you're ready to purchase, our job is to get you checked out and bagged and out of that store as efficiently as we can to make you not wait or put up with anything. I don't care how fancy or how basic the point of sale is. You as a customer don't care. All you care about is how fast can I get in and out? It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to look any different than anybody else's. We're just taking your money and getting you out of the store. There are plenty of other places to put your resources in terms of innovating and being different. That's not one of them.
At some level, you guys are operating like the most innovative e-commerce company I've ever seen. And it's not through it is through big feats of engineering, but it's because you've found smart ways to have partners, like you said, not vendors, but partners who are focused on the hardest problems and creating the best solution in the world for the hardest problems. And you get to take advantage of all of it, which is fantastic. Cool. Well, I could continue to talk to you forever. I'm going to be honest. This is so freaking cool. I love what you guys have been able to accomplish over there. And I think almost any e-commerce company should look at this and just be taking notes furiously from that conversation. I'd love to catch up again in a while, just hear about the new partners you found and the new ways you found to continue to innovate in this mall, because it's so freaking cool, man.
I enjoyed the conversation very much. So
Awesome.
I'd be happy to do it anytime.
Cool. Well, we'll keep in touch and we'll have you on again. But until then, thanks for coming on, dude. This was a blast. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Oh, you're welcome. You too.
Thank you.
Yep. Bye.